What if one of the deadliest standoffs in American history could have been avoided from the very beginning? David Koresh was not hiding all the time. He went outside, drove into town, ate at restaurants, and played music. So why was he not arrested there, instead of launching a violent raid on a compound full of women and children? Who really fired first? Why did the government keep pushing harder during the 51-day siege? And what truly caused the final fire? Stay with me until the end, because this story is far more disturbing and complicated than most people realize. The Waco story did not start with the siege. It started many years earlier, with a small religious group that slowly became more extreme over time. The Branch Davidians came from ideas connected to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but they became their own separate group. Over the years, different leaders took control, and each one claimed to better understand the Bible, especially the Book of Revelation and the end of the world. Eventually, the group settled at a place called Mount Carmel, just outside Waco, Texas. Later, a man named Vernon Howell joined the group. He was young, confident, and very charismatic. He spoke well, played music, and impressed many people. Over time, he gained more and more influence inside the group. Vernon eventually took control and changed his name to David Koresh. Koresh taught that he had a special message from God. He said he understood the 7 seals from the Book of Revelation, and he claimed that he had a special role in the final days of the world. His followers believed him, but Koresh was not just a preacher. He also controlled the people around him in disturbing ways. He claimed that God wanted him to father children with women in the group, including very young girls. He used religion to justify his power and control. This made him a dangerous leader. Even so, life at Mount Carmel was more complicated than many people think. The group did not live totally cut off from the world. Many members had jobs, drove cars, visited town, and talked with people in the community. Some outsiders even visited the compound and saw the group as strange, but not necessarily violent. Still, former members began telling police and reporters that children were being abused at Mount Carmel, and that Koresh was building power through fear, religion, and control. At the same time, the group also had many guns. That part was real. The Branch Davidians bought, sold, and worked on firearms. In many cases, this was legal. But to federal agents, it started to look suspicious, and that was the beginning of the disaster. As reports of abuse and weapons grew, federal agencies started paying closer attention to Mount Carmel. What had once looked like a strange religious group now looked, to the government, like a serious threat. And soon, that threat would turn into one of the most tragic standoffs in American history. In 1992, federal agents from the ATF began investigating the Branch Davidians. They believed the group might have illegal weapons inside the Mount Carmel compound. There were also rumors of child abuse, and the media was starting to pay attention. But there was a big question. Why did the government decide to raid the compound instead of arresting David Koresh when he was outside? Koresh often left the property. He went into town, ate at restaurants, and played music with his band. A peaceful arrest may have been possible. Instead, the ATF prepared for a full raid. On the 28th of February 1993, agents arrived at Mount Carmel in force. They came in trucks and trailers, armed and ready. But the people inside had already been warned that something was coming. So when the ATF reached the building, everyone was tense. And then shooting started. To this day, people still argue about who fired first. The government said the Branch Davidians started it. Survivors said the agents fired first. What is clear is that within seconds, a major gun battle broke out. The fighting was intense. By the end of the first raid, 4 federal agents were dead. On the Branch Davidian side, several people were also dead, including some who were shot inside the building. David Koresh himself was wounded. After that, everything changed. The FBI took control of the scene, and what had been a raid became a long standoff. For the next 51 days, the compound was surrounded. Inside were men, women, and children. Outside were federal agents, negotiators, armored vehicles, and reporters from across the country. At first, there were talks. Koresh spoke with negotiators for hours. He talked about God, the Bible, and his beliefs. Sometimes he made promises to come out, then changed his mind. This made the FBI lose trust in him. But inside the compound, the people believed they were living through a prophecy. They thought outside forces were attacking them just as their religion had predicted. That made the situation even harder. Some children and a few adults were allowed to leave, but many stayed behind. As time went on, the FBI became more aggressive. They cut off power and water. They used loud noises and bright lights at night. Armored vehicles moved closer and closer to the building. The pressure kept building. Experts warned that this kind of force could make things worse. If the people inside already believed they were in a final battle, then treating them like enemies could push them deeper into that belief. But the pressure continued anyway. By this point, the standoff was no longer just about weapons. It had become a deadly struggle between a government that wanted control and a group that believed surrender meant betrayal of God. And that struggle was heading toward a terrible ending. On April 19, final attack began. After 51 days of waiting, the FBI decided to force the standoff to end. Early that morning, armored vehicles moved toward the Mount Carmel building and began punching holes in the walls. Then agents pumped tear gas inside. The FBI said the gas was meant to force people out without starting a gunfight. But inside the building were men, women, and children. Many were already exhausted, afraid, and running out of options. As the gas spread, panic grew. Some people tried to hide. Some tried to protect the children. Others put on gas masks and moved through the building, not knowing what would happen next. Then the fire started. Very quickly, flames spread through the compound. This is still one of the biggest arguments in the whole Waco story. The government said the Branch Davidians started the fire themselves. Survivors and critics argued that the government's assault helped cause it, or at least made escape much harder. What is certain is that once the fire began, it moved fast. A few people managed to get out alive, most did not. In the end, 76 Branch Davidians died, including more than 20 children. David Koresh was found dead inside. The entire building was destroyed, and that is why Waco is still debated today. Some people believe the government had no choice because Koresh was dangerous and had too much control over his followers. Others believe federal agents used too much force and turned a standoff into a mass death. Both things can be true at the same time. David Koresh was an abusive and dangerous leader. He manipulated people, controlled their lives, and caused terrible harm. But the government was also supposed to protect innocent people, especially children. Instead, its actions helped create one of the deadliest law enforcement disasters in American history. That is what makes Waco so tragic. It was not just the story of a cult leader. It was also the story of fear, power, bad decisions, and a situation that kept getting worse until there was no way back. And in the end, the people who suffered most were the children and families trapped in the middle.